morning, NK viewers. We, the North Kids, are back for another historical content. Roma, have you ever wondered how Philippine art developed?
Interesting question, Dashley. I have. Jairus, do you know anyone who knows and can explain this in detail?
As a matter of fact, yes, in today's episode, we are joined by Mr. Pai. We will be interviewing one of the most sought time travelers from the Umbrella Academy.
Pleasant day, Mr. Five.
Now going straight into it. Mr. Five, where did it all start?
Well, it goes back to the era where art, as we know it today, all began.
Interesting. Seeing it as the first era, I think it would be great if you could compare and contrast the following eras with it, Mr. Five.
I agree, Carl. Let's discuss the first era that came after it. Mr. Five?
That will be the Spanish era. When I time traveled, both eras' theater arts reflected religious beliefs. Canao as people believe Kapunyan would be peace. Similarly, Cenaculo as people believe in Christ's passion and death, which they reenacted.
How about sculptures of saints, metalwork, and jewelry?
Both had. The ethnic era used light materials, while the Spanish used stones and bricks.
Were there differences in music?
Yes, string instruments and gongs for the ethnic era, while piano and Western instruments for the Spanish era. When I was there, playing the gongs was a personal favorite.
Where did you travel next to, Mr. Pai?
The American era. Compared to the ethnic era, where they were made for geographic and socioeconomic reasons like the tattoo, visual arts were made to show life, landscapes, and portraits.
During your stay there, were the art influences also different?
They were. When I was in the ethnic era, it came from location and experience. In the American era, it's from technological innovations.
Indeed, they differ. Was there nothing similar to the era art began at all?
There were architectures on residences and sculptures with figures of bodies. I saw the UP oblation during the American era.
I see. Let me guess. Mr. Five, is the next era the post-war republic?
It's the Japanese era and post-war republic. Similar to the ethnic, it's influenced by previous encounters. I went when the Japanese era was influenced by the war that passed.
What about the writing system, Mr. Five?
Both use writing as a medium to express themselves. When I was courting in the ethnic area, I used the system to compose poems. Meanwhile, it was used for magazines in the Japanese era.
What about sculptures? Were there similarities?
Of course, there were still conservative sculptures.
May I ask if there were resemblances between the two eras when it came to architecture, by the way?
They had religious ones. Mosques were established in the ethnic era, while churches were built in the Japanese era. I saw the beautiful Church of Holy Sacrifice.
I wish I saw it during that era. Also, how will you compare the art from the ethnic and the Japanese eras?
Visual arts during the ethnic era were created for spiritual purposes, while for aesthetic qualities of ruin during the Japanese era.
What? So artworks during the Japanese era made it seem that war didn't do damage?
Yes, sadly. Let's talk about the music instead.
Oh, were there differences?
Music focused on instruments while the Japanese era had written compositions like the Awit and Paglikha ng Bagong Pilipinas. Not related to music, but architecture during the ethnic era involved dwellings and state buildings, while the post-war republic involved commercial and businesses.
Ooh, like malls?
Yes, unlike the ethnic era, several art styles were used during the post-war republic, like neorealism.
Fascinating. What about compared to the contemporary era, from the 1970s up to the present, right? Let me guess, both eras reflected society.
Like how dances reflected where one lived during the ethnic era, contemporary arts reflected during modern day issues. Made with available materials, sculptures were from found objects. I had so much fun with my experience with conceptual art.
Was the music different too?
I see you're a music enthusiast, Carl. Yes, while music was string instruments and gongs during the ethnic era, the contemporary era involved transistor radios and radio stations.
Well, if I am music enthusiast, I'm sure Dashley is always curious about the sculptures. Right, Dashley?
I can't deny that, Carl. Mr. Five, I know we've asked a lot, but please tell us more about the sculptures.
No problem. Sculptures were limited during the ethnic era to available materials. The contemporary era had more, leading to multimedia, mixed media, and transmedia that we know today.
Want to hear the full episode on time traveling experience? Subscribe now to get new content every Thursday.
That's it for the North Kids.